Hello everybody, this is Jason from Iron Mission. Thank you so much for being here. In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at this 2024 Pan America. Yeah, old school Harley guy riding a Pan America. Don't know what I think about that, but I'm going to tell you what I think about it. Let's go take a look and we'll take a ride. All right, so here it is, 2024 Pan America. I've only had this bike now for about 125 miles, so I really wanted to do this video giving initial impressions as somebody who's coming off of a limited, right? I've still got my limited, like I said, but really that perspective, you know, if you're a cruiser rider, if you're a Harley rider that's ridden other bikes, like Pan America, man, what the heck? This is just not a real Harley. And I get it. You know, it's got a different engine. It does not have that Harley sound. Trust me, I get it. Like I said, I didn't get rid of my 24 limited for a reason. But the reason why I got this bike is my buddy's got one, and he has been talking about this bike, and he's got a Road Glide, and he's been like, oh, this bike is awesome, oh, it's so quick, oh, it's so comfortable. And then last weekend we went to the Harley Museum, and I made the mistake of doing their demo rides where I rode everything. I rode the Nightster, the Sportster S, this thing, and then I got what he was talking about. I realized that I have said for a while now, Harleys are slow. They are. They're slow. I've got the Woods 22 XE. I've got a Stage 2 in my 114. It is slow. That's just the bottom line. It's okay. It's not what it's for. It's a big, giant touring bike. I still absolutely love that bike, but it's slow. And I wanted something that maybe gets the heart pumping a little bit. I grew up on sport bikes. 1990s, we would do dumb things, race quarter mile, and had an FCR 1000 that was about a sub 10 second quarter mile bike. And I did miss a little bit of the performance. And this bike, Harleys are not slow. The traditional Harley is slow, but if you think Harleys are slow, you have not ridden this bike. You have not ridden the Sportster S, period. You haven't done it. Because if you had, and you put these things in sport mode, it will get your heart absolutely pumping. According to the internet, this is about an 11.5 second quarter mile bike stock. So these are very, very quick. Now, some cool things. Yeah, it's got that 1250 Rev Max engine, 150 horsepower, around a 90 foot-pounds of torque or so, 85, 90, I don't remember exactly. It's not really a spec video. But what I really wanted to do today is take it out for a ride, talk about my initial first impressions. There are some things to consider, things that you'll have to get used to, one of which you've got foot pegs instead of floorboards, if that's something you're used to. The foot position is a lot different, because it's kind of behind you a little bit, not necessarily right under you, or certainly not forward. And so that is something to consider. This big giant exhaust is horrible. All you can hear is the engine itself. You really can't hear the motorcycle all that much, at least the exhaust. So that's coming off. I've already got a Vance & Hines slip-on the way because I really like the way that sounded. And so that thing is definitely going bye-bye as quickly as humanly possible. It's not going to sound like a real Harley, I get that, but it's going to sound better than it does now. The controls are different, and I'm sure you have seen this before if you've watched any videos on the Pan America. But I got to tell you, it took me all of about 5 miles to get used to these controls. And I got the bike home, flipped through the buttons. These controls are very, very intuitive, very simple to use. And I really do think you'll like them. The TFT dash is really cool. Again, I don't know. Let me see here. Let's turn it on real fast. And again, we're looking directly into the sun right now, so keep that in mind. But I love this. It's got all this information. It's got the tire pressure and the range, and it says my kickstand is down, but if that thing didn't say that, you know, you've got outside temperature, engine temperature, voltage. If my phone was connected on the lower right-hand side, it would say that too, and you can customize this. So that is pretty awesome. Right now it's in sport mode. That's the other cool thing about this bike is you've basically got 5 bikes in one. You've got road mode, sport mode, off-road mode, rain mode, and then you've got 2 different customizable modes that you can do, and that is really, really cool. So coming around the other side, yeah, okay, I'm not going to argue with you. This is the ugly side of the bike, just like the Sportster S, just like the Nightster. Harley, I wish they did a better job. You know, again, I try to look at all things equally. I know a lot of people get a brand new bike, like, it's the best bike in the world, man. Nothing is bad about it ever. Well, no, this is not the most appealing thing to look at compared to your traditional Harleys, where both sides of the bike, both the right and left side, there's a lot of thought put into the appearance. Harley put a lot of thought into the right side, and on the left side they give you this. That's okay, because again, this bike is got a specific purpose, and that purpose is to have fun, have something nimble. This is a bike that's around 600 pounds, not the 900 pounds that I'm used to, and so that's kind of cool. Now, the other thing to consider too is, man, you know, I've got a camera in my hand right now, and I've got a backpack down there because I was like, where am I going to put my camera? I don't have any storage space. You know, the other thing to consider is the storage on these bikes. It looks stupid. I'm sorry. And I don't mean to offend anybody if you've got storage on your ADV, but it does not look great. You know, with the street glides and the road glides and those types of bikes, the saddlebags just look like they belong. They flow. With these bikes, you got these chunky boxes on the end of the motorcycle, and it doesn't look good. It doesn't flow. Now, it's a necessary thing sometimes, and it's utilitarian, and I get that, but if I ever take this bike on a trip, I know adding the bags is going to definitely decrease the look. And you can make the argument, dude, you're driving a limited. I mean, it's not exactly the best looking thing either. It's not super cool looking. All right, fine. I'll grant you that. And that's why I might put the bags on and not really care about the way that it looks all that much. And that's okay. But I don't like the way that bags look on these bikes. It's not something that I really enjoy. All right, so I think it's time. I think it's time to go out and let's take a ride. I'll give you my impressions as we're riding, and there you go. So in the 1990s, I grew up with sport bikes. Like I said, I had an FCR 1000, and that thing was quick. And I eventually migrated over to Harley, and I love the brand. I really do. And I like having the ability to go hundreds, if not 1,000 miles or more in a day, and that's why I've had a limited for the last few years. I love that bike. It's really comfortable. It eats miles. Love it. But the problem was, and I said this in the opening, that the bike is still slow, even with the Stage 2. It's just not meant to be a super fast bike or super nimble, and that's okay. It is a 950-pound touring bike, and it's very good at that. So I wanted something a little bit more nimble. I wanted something a little bit lighter. I wanted something that would be fun to take around town, because the touring bikes are wonderful, but they're not exactly a joy to be riding around the neighborhood or just go out. You know, I go to work. I only have a 10-mile drive. A lot of it's through suburban roads. And so that wasn't exactly the funnest thing in the world. It's still fun, don't get me wrong. But I wanted something a little bit more nimble, and that's why I was looking at the Pan America. And there's some things, though. There are some things that if you are considering it, especially if you're coming from a touring bike or a cruiser, some type of a soft tail, or a sport bike for that matter, there are some unique things about the Pan America. So first off, the riding position is different, and so your feet are going to be slightly behind you, and you don't have floorboards. So with the touring bikes, you know, I'm used to the floorboards, and the first couple times I hopped on this bike, I'm trying to place my feet a little bit more forward, and I'm looking for the floorboards, and that's not there. And so we got these foot pegs, again, a little bit behind you, not quite as comfortable. Right now, if you're coming from the sport bike world, not a big deal. If you've got a soft tail that already has pegs instead of floorboards, then you're going to be kind of used to it. But the fact that your feet are a little bit more behind you, a little bit more bend in the knee, that is absolutely going to be something different. The other thing to consider is the handlebars themselves. I already have on order the risers. I have a 2-inch riser that's going to bring the handlebars back about an inch, because you are leaning a little bit forward. And I think if you're looking for this bike to really eat miles, hundreds of miles a day, you're going to probably want to raise those handlebars and bring them a little bit closer to you. Now, as a point of reference, I'm about 5'9", and so one of the things that really concerned me for a number of years when I would see these bikes on the showroom floors, wow, it's a really tall bike. Wasn't sure if I was going to be able to flat foot it, wasn't sure if I was really going to be able to handle the height. And it turns out with the adaptive ride height, when you come to a stop, the bike lowers itself, and it really makes it a non-issue. And so I kind of feel bad. All those years I was kind of concerned that with such a tall bike that it was going to be an issue, and I'm telling you, it's just really not a concern. And so just keep that in mind if it's something that you're really looking for. Another thing to keep in mind here is you're not getting a whole lot of wind protection. And so if you're used to a street glide or a road glide or even a Heritage or a Road King that's got a really big windshield, this is not going to have the same wind protection that some of those other bikes have. And again, not a big deal. That's okay. This bike absolutely flies. It really, really moves. And that is something, be careful. Be careful when you hop on this bike. These Rev Max bikes, I already mentioned it, they are very, very fast bikes, especially in sport mode. And you will surprise yourself. It will definitely get your heart thumping a little bit if you really crank on that throttle in sport mode, especially. In road mode, it is a very, very easy ride. I would say in road mode, the bike is almost comparable to my 114 with the Stage 2 in terms of acceleration and that kind of thing. The other thing that took a little bit of time to get used to is the revs are higher in this bike. So it is a little bit higher RPM. And then also when I am riding the bike, it is definitely at a higher RPM. Again, I'm used to the big twin Harleys, and at 80 miles an hour going down the highway, you're at around 3,000 RPMs. In 6th gear on this bike, if you're like 55, 60 miles an hour, you are cranking 3,000, 3,500 RPMs. And so if you're doing 70 or 80 on the highway on this bike, you're over 4,000 RPMs. And so again, that's just something that is a little bit different, something to get used to. The TFT screen is outstanding. I already kind of showed you that. Really easy to read both in the daytime and at night. And so it's got a very bright display. I know it's kind of flickering here just because the timing is off between the camera mount and the display itself. But it's a really easy read. I like all the information it provides. I mentioned this already, but it took a couple minutes to get used to the hand controls and having a turn signal. It's like every other bike pretty much except for Harley, where you've got the turn signal is on the left-hand side, and that's your left and right turn signal. And so there's not a right turn signal on the right-hand side. Again, totally okay. These controls are super intuitive. It has heated grips, has the cruise control. So if you're used to coming from a larger bike or a touring bike or a soft-tailed, those things are there. But there are some upgrades that I need to make. One, the bike, as I mentioned, so quiet. You can hear the engine, but you cannot hear the exhaust. At least I can't hear the exhaust at all. And so I already have the Vance & Hines pipe on order to take care of that because, well, I want my bike to make a little bit of noise. And I know that it's not necessarily 100% true that loud pipes save lives. However, even just in the last 180 miles of having this motorcycle, there have been a couple times where I'm passing through somebody's blind spot, not riding in it, but one time someone put their turn signal on and kind of didn't necessarily see me as I was coming through. Another time somebody looked like they were going to start to veer into my lane. With my other bike, that almost never happens. And again, I've got the full tab headers and the tab zombie baffles with the cam. That bike, you can really hear it. Even if you're riding behind some car, they're most likely going to hear me. So got to be a little bit careful there. The suspension on this bike, especially in the soft setting, is far superior to the suspension I have on my Limited. It was pretty shocking, actually. In regular road mode, it's very, very solid, but if you want to, you can adjust the suspension. In sport mode, that suspension tightens up a little bit. Like I said, you basically got with these different modes, you have a bike that can handle very differently. I already have two of the modes, the mode A and B, those two extra modes. I already have them set up, and so it will do, not only will it do, the acceleration, sport, road, off-road, rain, but you can take that, you can pick one of those, and then you can pick your suspension setting. Do you want it firm? Do you want it soft? Do you want it in the middle? And so you have like 5 or so different suspension settings, and then you have the amount of engine braking you want. So if you're on the highway and when you let off the throttle, you don't want a lot of excessive engine braking, you can set that to be less. Or if you're going to be constantly in suburbia and when you let off the throttle, you would like the engine to brake a little bit more so you're not hitting the brakes as much, you can do that. So you have that setting as well. So there's I believe 7 different settings, and you can play with those depending on what you're going to be doing. That is really, really nice. Like that a lot. These brakes, one of the things I noticed right away is be careful with the brakes, because I was on the way here into the middle of the cornfields, a light change, and I had a choice to either blow the light or stop, and I made the decision to stop. And when I hit those brakes, especially those front brakes, that bike stopped. And I mean, it stopped aggressively, far more aggressively than my 950-pound Limited could stop. And so you would expect that, right? You would expect that coming from this bike, and it is absolutely true. The thing stops very, very aggressively. The other thing that I notice is very different compared to the traditional Harleys is the clutch lever, the front brake lever. They are a lot smoother. They're not quite so mechanical, not quite so clunky. And that is especially true of the shift lever. I mean, oh my gosh, when you're shifting gears, it's almost, I have to get used to it, because when you go from, like, let's say neutral to first, you usually get that big clunk. Or when you go from first to second, there's usually a very tactile feel in most Harley motorcycles. That's not true here. And I actually had to find myself being a little bit more careful with the throttle, because I'm not feeling that gear going into first and second gear. Third, fourth, fifth, sixth is fine, but it's ultra smooth, and there is very, very little resistance going into the gears. The other cool thing, finding neutral on this bike is a whole lot easier than finding neutral on some of the big twin Harleys. It's just, I haven't actually missed neutral at all. It's the weirdest thing ever, where you pull up and, like, oh, first try every time. It makes you feel like a motorcycle riding stud, I guess, instead of being like first, second, first, second, first, second. Oh, there's neutral. Okay, I found it. But that is a little bit better there for sure. This is one thing that has absolutely driven me crazy on my 24 Limited. It has the hill assist, which means you can come up to a stoplight and you can press down on the front brake. It'll vibrate for like a half a second, and then you'll have an icon that says, hey, you know what, the brakes are applied, and so you can take your hand off the brake. The problem is, on the Limiteds, at least on the 24 Limited, you have to still be in gear. You cannot be in neutral and allow the bike to do the hill assist to climb, or the brake assist. On this bike, it's different. It makes all the sense in the world that you could be in neutral, you can depress the front brake and hold it down firmly, the little light will come on, and your bike will actually hold the brakes while the bike is in neutral. Now, I know some of you motorcycle safety experts out there will say at a red light, you should never have your bike in neutral. You should never have, your bike should always be in gear. You should always have your foot up on the peg, so that if there's an emergency situation, if someone's coming up fast on you, you have to get out of there. You can. I get all that, and I do that too. But when you are sitting at a light for minutes on end and there are 15 cars piled up behind you, you don't need to worry about the car behind you piling up and doing something. And so during those times, or like when I'm here coming up to a stop sign, I need to take a second. And if this was a little bit of a hill, and let's say I don't know, wanted to take a break here, but my bike was going to roll backwards unless I had the brakes applied, it's really nice to be able to have that ability to press that thing and allow the bike to hold for just a minute, maybe adjust your gloves, do whatever you have to do. Really enjoy having the adjustable windshield. So for most of the time, the windshield was at its lowest position. You get a little bit more wind, but if you got bad weather, or you just want a little bit less wind fatigue, you can raise that windshield up. I think the adjustment's about an inch or so, but it's enough. It does make a difference. I have to get used to not having lower leg fairings, so there's a little bit more wind coming through the lower part of my body, although there is some vents coming through there and a little bit of plastic there blocking. It's still obviously way different than the Limited. I can tell you right now, if I had a passenger, and again, Joanna rides her own bike, she's got her Road King. If I had a passenger, this was my only bike, not a chance. To me, I want my passengers to be ultra comfortable, and so I would stick with the Limited, had that nice big giant back seat, and passenger can just kind of chill out. This is a bike that is best suited for a single rider. I mean, yeah, if you've got a passenger that's just kind of around town, you're going out for the night, that's okay. I mean, you can make it a little bit more comfortable, but without the backrest, you've got foot pegs for your passenger. The seat isn't all that big. I just don't think, for me personally, it's something that most passengers are really going to enjoy. And if I have a passenger, I want them to enjoy the ride. And so if I had something that was going to ride in the back, I would be taking my Limited. I would not be taking this bike. Fuel economy has been about the same. Believe it or not, I've already had to fill up the tank, and I calculated somewhere around 42, 43 miles per gallon. That's about, believe it or not, what I'm getting on the Limited. So it's kind of nice that we have a very similar amount of efficiency, I suppose you could say. Although if you're riding a motorcycle, most of them are going to be efficient, and most people, that's not their top concern anyway. Going around turns, parking lot maneuvers, a whole lot easier, as you could imagine, than your typical Harley, either the Limiteds or just a regular Street Glide, Road King. It's just, again, you're dealing with a bike that weighs less, and it's made to handle a little bit better in tight spots. And so I'm not somebody who has really any issues doing, handling our, our larger bikes, our limiteds. In fact, we did a course, like it was an advanced rider course. It was a whole lot of fun. We did it through Harley Davidson a couple years ago. It really transformed my riding. I can't recommend it highly enough. If you ever have a chance to take an advanced slow speed riding course, if you're somebody who rides bigger bikes, these cruisers, the touring bikes, it will transform the way you ride. I know it did for me. So yeah, can't recommend it highly enough. So I will be updating you. There's some, like I said, I've got the pipe on order, the risers are on order, I've got highway pegs, and as I add all those things, I'll update you and say, okay, well, now that I've made these changes, here's how I feel about the bike as it changed over time. Don't worry, for those of you who are traditional Harley V-twin guys, I am, like I said before, I've said it 3 times, I am not getting rid of my Limited. I love that bike. I love the traditional Harley sound, the feel. That is still my favorite bike. I can say that right now as of the making of this video. The Limited, if I had to pick one between the Limited and the Pan America, it would be the Limited, because I absolutely love that bike. So there you have it, everybody. Thank you, as always, for being here. And by the way, if you want to see a review on the touring bike or that cam that I did on that bike, check out the videos in the upper and lower right-hand corner. As always, thank you so much for being here. Ride safe, everybody. We'll see you next week.